Today's video is part 2 of the soldering station review. In part 1, we learned a few things. The grounding is incorrect. I know, surprise, surprise, a Chinese soldering station without proper grounding. Issue number 2 was the advertisement said this was supposed to come with a 9501 style handle, which it did not. It came with this. This is the style with the collar you have to remove, and the tip to grip is longer. It should have came with one that looked more like this, with just a quick release and a nice tip to grip. And issue number 3 was that even though the description said this had a voltage range of like 100 volts to 240 volts, that's only true for the internal power supply, which only runs the handle. It is not true for the hot air heating element. This is only available in 220 volts, and in the US market, it's not going to work. So I contacted Banggood support, let them know the problems, and they let me pick out a handle. And they sent this over rather quickly too, DHL Express. I don't know if I'm getting special treatment because they know I'm making videos. That I don't know. This is just my own experience, but customer support worked with me pretty good, and they said pick out a handle, so I picked out this one right here. And it is a aluminum one. It's got the green carbon fiber. It's pretty good. I like that the tip to grip is still pretty reasonable. You know, it's a nice short distance. Feels good. It's all aluminum. Strain relief could use a little work. I like the way this strain relief here tapers down. It kind of moves the stress of the bending over a larger area, where on this one it all kind of focuses the bending of the wire in the same spots. That could be a potential problem after hours and hours of use, but in general, I'm happy. It's a pretty cool little handle. And the third problem with the heating element, I tried explaining to the customer service the issue. They didn't quite get what I was saying with the whole language barrier, but it was less than $10 for a 110 volt heating element, so I just bought myself a heating element. This is for an 858D, which is this style of hot air, and it's available in 110, and like I said, less than 10 bucks. So I'm going to try to crack the ground wiring. I'm going to install the 110 volt heating element, give this thing a test drive. Just got done installing the proper 110 volt heating element. It's a very straightforward job. Just 2 wires for the element, 2 wires for the sensor. The little circuit board in here is labeled so you know what goes where. I also finished running the proper grounding wire, which was easy to do because the exposed metal had already had grounding wires attached and run through. They just didn't bother to finish the grounding wire on the inside. So now I have proper continuous grounding from the grounding pin at the socket to the chassis. Oops. There we go. And to the grounding of the tip and the hot air. Now this does 3 important things. It keeps the user safe, so that way the parts you touch can't become hot and live. And it's also safe for the equipment you work on because it can't allow a static buildup. It's constantly being pulled to ground. And it also acts as an RF shield for the noisy power supply by being encased in this conductive aluminum that's also tied to ground. The yellow wire coming in through the hot air is chassis ground, which is soldered to the back side of the power supply board with this yellow wire here, which is tied to ground. And then for the chassis ground, here's a ground wire here just going up to this mounting screw. And then for the soldering station ground, it's actually under this connector here. You can't really see it, but there's an extra ground wire running underneath, which is also soldered to the ground here too. Time to check the heating element actual wattage. Now back in the first video with the heating element that it came with, the 220 volt one, it couldn't even pull 200 watts, which is not enough power to make the heat you need for hot air work. So now let's check it with the 110 volt element. I have it set to 450 and maximum fan speed, and we're already at 411. It does say it's at 100%, so we're just a hair over 400, which is double what it was, which is still 400 is maybe just a little bit on the low end. I'd like to see more like 500 watts to get good fast hot air, but this should be usable. It should reach 450 in just a few more seconds here, and it'll give a beep when it's there. There it goes. Okay, it's at its temperature. It's a little slow, but usable. It does look like it reads about 40 degrees on the low side, so since I want 450, I have it set to 410, and we'll just check it with my meter here. Okay, so we reached 410, which is actually, whoops, if I can hold my sensor in the right area, which is around 450. Yeah, there we go. So I'll just remember that one setting, and I'm sure there's a way to calibrate it. I could probably knock it down 40 degrees, but I'll just remember that it reads low. And now I'll check the accuracy of the actual soldering tip. So this is a J02. I have it set to J02, and let's see what it actually is. I like to use 345 degrees C, and that's exactly bang on. Impressive. Okay. Now for some real world testing. How well does it actually work? Let's find out. I'm going to try to remove this transistor here, which will take a good chunk of heat. It's got a heatsink tab on it that will take a fair amount of heat to get it off. Plus there's going to be a lot of copper in that area of the board too where the heatsink tab is on. Okay, I heard the beep, so it's up to temp, and it is off. Let's use the soldering wand to put the transistor back on. Get a little bit of Lewis Rossman ointment on there. And this again is my J02 tip, little bent tip, which I really like. Oh, it's still hot from when I took it off. So I guess I could probably knock the temp down a little bit. I was getting a little aggressive there on the heat. All right. And this tip I'm using really isn't the greatest for doing a heatsink tab, but it'll work. It's just let me just freshen that up there. Should slide back. Come on. Alright, so maybe using hot air would be better to put this back on because it's not laying flat, but it gives you an idea of the wand. Switch back to the hot air. And this leg right here, I'm waiting for this to melt so it will lay flat. There it goes. Okay, now we got a nice... Okay, it's maybe crooked, but you get the idea. It worked slightly better than I was expecting. Usually 400 watts is a little on the low end, but it worked. Now my Tenma over here, I've been using that for many years. It's the exact same style handle in 858, but this is a 660 watt element, so this can get pretty angry pretty fast. So it is very possible to get a higher wattage in this handle. I just kind of got the luck of the draw and got a little bit weaker one, but I'm sure if I shopped around I could find a 600-700 watt element to put into this and really make it a flamethrower, so it has the potential. So would I recommend this soldering station? No, not really, especially if you're in North America where our voltage is 110. Now if they would have sent along the right soldering wand, which was supposed to come with in the advertisement, that would have helped. I still don't like the strain relief on this particular wand. There's just too much weakness right here at the base. It's eventually gonna not do what it's supposed to do and protect the wire. And of course you got the whole heating element fiasco. So no, I don't recommend it now as it sits. It does have potential. It is nice. It's just it's got issues. Small update. I decided to give this thing a chance, and I'm going to daily drive it for a little while. And to ease my mind about the poor strain relief, I did just unscrew this collar, put some electrical tape around the base of it, and put the collar back on. So now it's got a little bit of stiffness here at the base. So I feel better about that. It kind of evenly distributes the pressure put on the wire. So much better. Okay, well now this video is over. See you next time. Thanks for watching.